Round 1, of course, will be completed today, and round 2 tomorrow. And Trystan, round 2 is expecting potentially to see a little bit of rain, so completely different conditions. As we've got the cars, by the look, the bikes, sorry, on the grid, and we're off and underway, and it's a good start from the pole man. And Will Howarth holds on to the lead into the first few corners through the quick chicane and around into the first sector. Bernie Hook doing a good job to stay with him. You can see the cars, bikes will all start to filter through the first few sections of the lap, and it's a good getaway for the pole man.
Yeah, brilliant stuff from these guys. Just come in onto the last little complex before the back straight for the first time. Looks like Will Howarth's just edging out a bit of a gap already, so brilliant stuff from him. We'll have to wait and see if these guys can stay with him. Coming through the infield section now. A little bit wide there from Will Howarth through the left hairpin, but I don't think it will hinder him too much as we head onto the home straight for the final time. One lap down as we head into the chicane for the second time of asking.
Yep, as Will Howarth does hold on to the lead of the race after starting on pole. He leads away from Bernie Hook in second. Matt and Josh Birkin have held on to third and fourth, and Adam Ambrose up into fifth position. So good start from the guys all on the front few rows of the grid. They've managed to maintain position, and it's all now about getting your head down and getting into a rhythm, because with a race like this earlier on, of course, it's the first real competitive race for these guys. It's all about finding that consistency. Yeah,
no, absolutely. And one man who's doing a very good job of that is Will Howarth at the moment, putting some consistent pace in at the front, and has already got a very nice lead here ahead of Bernie Hook. But yeah, absolutely, for these guys at the moment, all they want to be doing is scoring points. The season's long, 3 races today even, so at the moment all they need to be doing is just finishing races and getting themselves somewhere on that championship board.
Yep, absolutely. As Will Howarth starting to stretch a bit of a lead over Bernie Hook, the number 0, of course, last season's champion, in second place, and he's slowly watching the pole man, Will Howarth, start to stretch out a gap, and it's almost a second and a half now, so it's been a great start from Will, and he will just hope to keep this pace, because it's doing pretty nicely at the moment, starting to stretch that gap. Bernie Hook starting to equally stretch a little bit of a gap over Matt and Josh Birkin in third and fourth position. You can see those guys are tailing each other, looking for that final podium position. Bernie Hook, you can see eyes fully focused ahead, and he will be hoping on chasing down Will Howarth. He's trying to close that gap. We'll see as they come across the line if it's closed down. And across the line does come Will Howarth, and we'll see if the gap is now extended to 2 seconds. So it is Andy Whedon in 6th position, with behind him Nick Bennett, Craig Ashwin in 8th position, Ashton Dean in 9th, Paul Bayliss in 10th, Jess Lucas is in 11th. George Rennick is in 12th, Ricky Goosey in 13th, and Marco Pandolfo in 14th position. So it's been a great start from Will. He's starting to stretch this gap about half a second each lap, so it's been a good start from him.
Yeah, absolutely, flying well at the front. He just needs to keep this going, keep this consistent pace. Same for Bernie Hook. He's got a nice lead over the guys in third and fourth. The 2 Birkins battling it out, which could be a very interesting battle for the end to see that battle for that final spot on the podium. Matt Birkin with the blue leathers and Josh with the black.
It looks as though Will Howarth starting to come up to some lapped traffic, and the guys out on circuit, you can see the guys they're coming up to are involved in a slight bit of a battle. So when you're obviously in the lead of a race, you're coming up to lap track who are involved in a battle. Does that change your mindset about where you're possibly going to try and get past them, or do you just have the faith that they'll just see you coming, perhaps a hairpin bend, and let you by?
The only thing you're thinking when you come to lap traffic is how quickly you can get past them, and whether you're going to get them in a good place or a bad place. But these guys at the front, I'm sure they've had a lot of practice getting through back markers, and they will try and get through them as quickly as possible. they seem to have done it pretty smoothly so far, but we'll see if it causes any chaos a bit further back. Backmarkers may play a part in this race, but it's all yet to be seen.
Josh Birkin absolutely sending it past the lap jacket into the first of the hairpins in the infield, wanting to keep up with Matt in third position. So Matt Birkin in third, Josh just behind him in fourth, and he's doing a great job to stay with him. And you can see did not want to lose any time at all getting past any lap traffic. And yep, it was a pretty easy overtake for the traffic for Will Howarth. Managed to get past some straights and not really compromise too much into the corners, so was managing to hold on to pretty much perfect cornering speed. And you can see that gap now, 4 seconds he's got over Bernie. So Bernie possibly held up by that traffic by about a second or so.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if anything, the traffic possibly helped Will. Obviously, his consistent pace is helping him more than anything. But it looks like now Bernie Hook might come into trouble from the two Birkins behind.
Yeah, and they are starting to close in, hopefully working together. But of course, I'm sure elbows will be out if anyone starts to think about a move. But yeah, Will Howarth leads across the line. That gap has now extended to 4.5 seconds over Bernie Hook. Bernie Hook starting, as you say, to come under threat from Matt and Josh Birkin in third and fourth position. So those two not only eyeing up third place, but second is in the offering, because yeah, Bernie is watching Will Howarth disappear off into the distance. The gap was 4.5 seconds as they crossed the line the last time. So we've got 3 laps left to go, and it is Will Howarth that leads the race with Bernie Hook in second, Matt Birkin in third, Josh Birkin in fourth, Adam Ambrose up to fifth, Andy Whedon is in sixth, Nick Bennett seventh, Ashton Dean in eighth, Jess Lucas has moved up into ninth place ahead of Paul Bayliss. Then when we've got Craig Ashall is in 11th, George Rennick in 12th, Ricky Goosey in 13th, and Marco Pandolfo in 14th. So we come across the line to start, 2 laps left to go, and Will Howarth is just disappearing. He's extending that gap to just under 5 seconds. So Will doing an absolutely magnificent job to start the season. And when you're a current champion, Bernie Hook, and you're just watching a driver just drive away from you, it's going to be a bit disconcerting. Absolutely,
it definitely will be for him. But I think so early in the season, Bernie will just be thinking about consolidating this second place now, getting 20 points on the board, and then possibly trying again for race 2 and 3.
Absolutely, and so we're coming up to the final lap of the race very, very shortly, and it is, by all means, it seems that Will Howarth will be taking this one, and he is coming up to the start floor. He's coming up to the start finish line, I believe, as he comes around and comes across the line. So yeah, Will Howarth in first place, comes up to the quick right flick of turn 1, turn 2 and turn 3. Very easy to go wide at turn 2. You can see the wood chippings on the outside, and the curbs here quite vicious really, because they're deep gullies on them, so especially maybe not too much of a problem if you're in a car, but on a bike it's the worst place you want to be.
Absolutely, a lot of tracks have curbs you can use, but these curbs are a little bit vicious. Another thing through these kinds of complexes is a lot of them link together quite well. So if you sort of mess up, let's say the first one, it can mess you up for the rest of it as well. So these guys doing very well to navigate their way through those sections.
Yeah, doing very well indeed, and it is Will Howarth that is streaking away. The gap now almost 5.5 seconds, and he is looking at taking the checkered flag, and a pretty dominant way to start off the season. And the man that started on the pole takes the checkered flag and picks up the win. The first race of the season for the Senior Minimotos, and fantastically done for him. Pops a wheelie on the exit of turn 2, and across nice the line comes Bernie Hook. Matt Birkin just about manages to hold on to third position. Josh Birkin in fourth place. Adam Ambrose comes across the line in fifth. Andy Whedon in sixth. And yeah, it's going to be a bumper weekend of action, and you can watch it all here. And of course, if you're watching at home and you're enjoying it, like, share and subscribe to all the channels to stay notified when we go live and when FAB-Racing brings you some more absolutely scintillating entertainment. And we're back, and we're going to have a very, very close-knit season. A lot of action happening in a very short amount of time after a long winter break due to being off for such a long time. So yeah, plenty of action for these guys, and they've started off the season with a considerable bang, but we're lining up on the grid now, getting ready to get going for race 2 of the Senior Minimotos. And Trystan, we're going to have Will Howarth lining up on the front row of the grid, and are you expecting him to do the same sort of thing you did in round 1?
Well, I'd like to see someone go with him, but I'm going to say it's definitely going to be a difficult call. I mean, he was on pole position. He absolutely destroyed the field. He wasn't just fast, but he was incredibly consistent. So, he's definitely going to be a tough act to beat, but it'll be interesting to see if anyone can actually go with him in this race.
Absolutely. As the guys are all now on the grid, and we are getting ready to go for race 2 of the Senior Minimotos. A fantastic race to open the season earlier this morning, but we're getting ready to go green. They're looking at the lights, engine notes rising, and we're off underway. Will Howarth gets a good start, leads into turn 1. Behind, we've got everyone cleanly through the first chicane, but it is Will Howarth that maintains it ahead of Bernie Hook. Matt and Josh Birkin, who enjoyed a very fun battle earlier in the first round of the season, are in 3rd and 4th. Andy Whedon back in 5th, but it's a good getaway from Will.
Absolutely, he's already eking out a bit of a lead there. We saw off the line he got a very good start. Bernie Hook got a little bit of a wheelie action off the line there, so definitely pushing hard is Bernie Hook to try and stay with him. But Will Howarth again, brilliant start, already got a little bit of the lead, but nothing too definitive at the moment as they close him in through the infield section.
As you can see, it's starting to get closed in on, so slightly weaker end to this first lap for Will Howarth, and we've seen him in a couple of classes so far today, so a lot of pretty big workout for him, but back on the Minimotos, and he's leading around the first lap. We've got 8 laps left to go of this one, and Bernie Hook is in 2nd, Matt Birkin ahead of Josh Birkin, Andy Whedon is in 6th, Nick Bennett has managed to jump Adam Ambrose into 6th position, Craig Ashall back in 8th, George Rennick in 9th, and Marco Bandolfo is in the 10th position. But you can see Will Howarth, he's got around about 0.3 of a second gap between himself and Bernie Hook in 2nd, and Bernie having a slightly better race than what we saw this morning. Yeah,
absolutely. I think Bernie's doing well to go with him, but he'll do really well to try and unsettle Will and unsettle his pace, because once Will puts the hammer down, he's very capable of getting away, and it looks like he's already edging that gap out now again. But nothing too definitive at the moment, as Bernie Hook really trying to apply the pressure now on Will Howarth. But like I said, he's just going to have to snap at him soon to try and unsettle his pace.
Bernie Hook almost getting right out of shape on the entry to the second hairpin to end the lap, and he unsettled himself on the bike, and as you say, he's pushing hard to close in on Will, but what that's done is open up that gap now to a second, so Bernie now coming under threat from Matt Birkin in 3rd place, so pushing hard, unfortunately has done the opposite reaction to it, so he's now come under threat for his 2nd position.
Yeah, he's going to have to watch his lines now and make sure that Birkin can't get through on him, and just try and set a consistent pace, because it's very difficult to match the consistent pace that Will Howarth is able to do at the front. But I think now Will's just got enough lead to just stay consistent and either edge this gap out even more or keep it the same, because he's very good at that, as we saw earlier on today.
Yep, incredibly consistent so far for Will Howarth. He leads across the line, and he's got just over a second lead so far. In fact, he's got the fastest lap by about 0.3 of a second, so the guys behind are slowly going to start falling away from him, and now Bernie Hook has started to fall into the clutches of Matt Birkin in 3rd place. It's kind of allowing Will to start to stretch his legs and not worry about defending too much, so he can focus on his own race and get his head down and make sure that he's picking all those perfect lines throughout this tight and twisty circuit down in southeast England. And very warm day outside. These bikes, I'm sure, will be getting hot. You're down low to the ground as well, so which will be getting even warmer. So
it looks like we've got some rider that's out of this race. Looks like the chains come off, or possibly some problem with that bike. So that's a rider who's not going to be finishing this race.
Yeah, unfortunate there.
Can't quite see the number.
Yeah, we'll find out when the time screens come across. As we've got George Rennick closing in on Craig Ashall in 9th and 10th, in 8th and 9th position as well. So those two battling out for the places towards the rear end of the top 10, and you can see we've now got lap traffic. It looks as though drivers...
It looks as if now Bernie Hook is now taking the lead, so the lap traffic has definitely played into Bernie Hook's hands, because the number 0 is now leading this race, and it is Will Howarth, who's unfortunately suffered from catching some back markers there.
Yep, so Bernie Hook being the ultimate opportunist there, and as you can see, once again getting slightly wide on the exit of that first hairpin. So it's a corner he struggled with a couple of times so far this race, and that's going to open up the door to Will Howarth, and will come across the line, and the gap's going to be very close between the pair, and we'll see what it's like into T1. So yeah, you can see it's close between the top three. The top three split by 7/10 of a second. We've got Bernie Hook, Will Howarth and Matt Birkin all fighting out for this race win.
It'll be so interesting to see how Will Howarth is now going to approach this race from behind. All we've seen from him so far is him leading races, so it'll be very interesting to see how he copes with having a rider like Bernie Hook in front of him. Bernie's doing very well to cover his lines at the moment, just trying to make sure Howarth has no way past. I think he's pretty sure that he can't make a break on Will Howarth, because that would be pretty impressive.
It would, and they're coming up to more lap traffic here, so we'll see if that hinders them. Though it looks as all three have managed to get past pretty easily. If you're in a position that Will Howarth's in now, where he's in the middle of two, obviously you're wanting to chase down Bernie Hook for the lead, but he's got to watch out for Matt Birkin behind. So what is it when you're stuck in the middle of two drivers?
Well, you're definitely you're more focused on the one in front, which can sometimes be your downfall. Races tend to go on the one in front, but if he's clever, he will need to be watching his back as well, because very often in racing, if you're not overtaking someone, you're the one being overtaken. So Will Howarth's definitely going to have to watch out for Birkin behind him, although he very well might not know that he's there, because I don't think these guys don't have pit boards around these karting circuits. So unless he can hear him on the overrun, Will Howarth may very well not know he's there. And in fact, we now have a change for second place as Matt Birkin goes up the inside of Will Howarth. So Will Howarth now down to third place, and seems a little bit unsettled by that move as well, as we only have 3 laps left of this race. Hook it is then that leads from Howarth and Birkin. Yeah,
superb move there from Matt Birkin to get past Will Howarth, and the exit, I believe it was a turn 11, just unsighted Will Howarth. He probably wasn't expecting him, but yeah, sent up the inside. But we'll see Will Howarth now getting a run into turn 1, not quite close enough to send it, but he's got a good run out of turn 4, and he's going to come up to turn 3, into turn 4, not quite close enough to close in. But Matt Birkin now starting to put the pressure on Bernie Hook for the lead of this race. We've got 1.5 laps left to go in this one, and Matt Birkin at the end of this one is really starting to turn the heat up. Absolutely.
I mean, he's seen the bait and he's absolutely gone for it. So he's really trying hard now to take this win. And yeah, all these guys pushing really hard. Just looks like Bernie Hook has a little bit more pace through that section just before the straight, but like you say, struggles here on the infield section. So yeah, it will be interesting to see what happens towards the end of this one. The last section isn't a section you want to be a weak on, because if these guys can find their way through on the last section, then they'll be in front of him across the line. So coming on to start the last lap now, Bernie Hook it is that leads from Matt Birkin and Will Howarth as they go through the first section for the final time. Will Howarth getting really close up behind Matt Birkin now, but no way through into the second chicane.
No, as he used a wide entry, but not quite close enough to get up the inside of Matt Birkin. These guys all battling over the lead of the race. We're on the final lap, and it's top 3 split by 0.3 of a second. It's Bernie Hook leading from Matt Birkin and Will Howarth. Who can hold on to this one?
Bernie Hook again looking really strong through that section just before the back straight, just ekes up enough of a gap for them not to be able to dip under the inside through the infield section. Only a few corners to go. Looks like they're catching some back markers. Will Howarth looking menacing on Matt Birkin, trying to go around the outside, can't quite make it stick. A lot of back markers in the middle here, but it looks like it is Bernie Hook that is going to take the win from Matt Birkin and Will Howarth in third place. A very exciting last lap there with a lot of back markers in the way. Unfortunately, no one could get through the infield section, but yeah, very, very good race from Bernie Hook. Just absolutely played, and some nice wheelies there from Wilkes and Will Howarth. Always nice to see, very entertaining. But yeah, Bernie Hook, who takes the win, took the lead from a back marker that hindered Will Howarth earlier in the race. So yeah, absolutely an opportunist. Matt Birkin as well, making his way through on Will Howarth. Did an excellent job to to make his way through onto the section before the back straight there.
Yeah, really good finish there for Bernie Hook. Had to get his way through some traffic on the final corner, which is the last thing that you want, and Matt Birkin finishing less than a tenth of a second behind him. So we'll find out if how delighted those guys are as they came across the line. Bernie Hook does pick up the victory, which is much better than what we saw earlier on, and there you can see the gap between the top two, 0.095, half a second back to Will Howarth in third, Josh Birkin in fourth place, Adam Ambrose in fifth, Andy Whedon in sixth place, Craig Ashall in seventh, Nick Bennett up to eighth place, Ashton Dean in ninth, and George Rennick rounds out the top 10. That's your top 10 finish is for your Senior Minimotos as they complete their second race of the day. Yep, Will Howarth just getting a little bit of help by the looks of it on the grid. Or maybe one of the riders might, sorry. But yeah, it's going to be a good race. We're expecting Bernie Hook to be strong. He's finished second and first this afternoon. So look to the lights as we hear the engine notes rise. We get ready to go, and off they go. And it is a good start there for Will Howarth behind Bernie Hook. Does hold on to second position. Matt Birkin is still in third position, and Josh Birkin just behind him.
Yeah, great start from Will Howarth, exactly what we expected him to do. But now all the pressure is on Hook to be able to try and find a way through. But yeah, great start from Howarth already. Looks like as if he's already got a little bit of a lead, and we haven't even completed half a lap yet. So brilliant stuff from Howarth at the front. Bernie Hook's right on the back of him now, actually, so as they go head down the back straight into the infield section.
Yep, into the first of the hairpins in the infield section, and it is Will Howarth that you can see him just giving a quick glance behind, just finding out where Bernie Hook is, and he doesn't want to do it too often because he's right behind him.
We have a rider down at the moment. That looks like that number 70. Back to the front then. Will Howarth still with the lead over Bernie Hook, keeping his lines consistent. A good solid first lap for him, but you've got to think that Bernie's going to be trying to figure out a way to get past Will Howarth at the moment. Yep,
and that was number 70 George Rennick that went down at the hairpin there, but up at the front it is still Will Howarth that's holding on to this lead, but Bernie Hook not letting him go, and the pair of them are starting to make a slight breakaway from Matt Birkin in third. But we saw, especially in the second half of race 2, that Matt Birkin really came alive and started to take to the fight to the guys at the front.
Yeah, once the guys got bunched up at the front, Matt Birkin wasn't shy at all. He stuck it right to those guys. And we see another rider crashes out there, but rejoining there. Rejoining the race there for that rider. So unlucky for him, but good that he can restart. But yeah, it just looks as if now Will Howarth at the front is just edging his lead out, and now we know once he's got a little bit of clear air, there's no catching him unless he gets caught up in some back markers.
Yeah, absolutely so, and that's what he'll be hoping not to happen, is stay out in clear air and just hold on to this lead. He doesn't want to get caught up in anything he doesn't need to be part of, and at the moment he is, as you say, starting to bridge a little bit of a gap between himself and Bernie Hook. The gap last lap was about 3/4 of a second. It looks as though Will Howarth might have extended it somewhat this lap around, and he comes into the hairpin section in the infield, and you can see him just having a quick glance behind on the entry to the hairpin, and you can see Bernie Hook has dropped back somewhat. So Will Howarth can take a little breath and just collect himself, and he knows that it's just all about putting in those consistent laps.
You just see there the contrast in styles between Howarth and Hook. You see Howarth keeps his legs quite inside his elbows and tucks his knees in, whereas Bernie Hook has got that classic big Minimoto rider style where he's got his knees flailing around everywhere, and not very aerodynamic, but it's more comfortable for some riders.
And is there any benefit, of course, to those that are new to the Senior Minimotos and Minimoto in all, your racing, your riding style?
Absolutely. I mean, everyone has their own unique style in some sort of way, and some people feel more comfortable with other styles, but there are very basic things that you need to be able to nail in order to be as fast as these guys.
Yeah, absolutely so. And but it is Will Howarth that's got a comfortable 1.2 second lead over Bernie Hook at the moment. Matt Birkin is little bit on his own. He's trying to close in on the top two, but not quite making the inroads he was hoping. But Will Howarth now, I believe, starting to come up to traffic. So this is where we saw him suffer in race 2. And once again, he's going to have to navigate himself through that traffic. And I think he's done that on the exit of turn 5. So much better this time round than what we saw last race. And that's hopefully allowing him to start to put the throttle down and get on with it, and he can get onto this back straight and really open up that throttle and that engine down towards the infield section.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you can just see him coming up to some lap traffic now. Not in the best place possible in the infield section, tight and twisty, not the easiest to overtake, but it looks as if he's got past him. All right, as we just see another rider down there with Oxford Products leathers there, unable to restart this race. Unfortunately, struggling to get that bike started. Unfortunate for the number 137 of Aston Dean. Unfortunately, out of this one.
Yeah, so frustrating on the sidelines, trying to get the bike started, not quite happening. You can see there the lap traffic almost getting in the way of that battle going on between 5th and 6th. I believe that was Tom Whedon and Marco Pandolfo, who are currently battling over that 5th and 6th position. And that's the closest battle we've got on track at the moment, is between Whedon and Pandolfo, and they managed to navigate the traffic pretty easily, as you can see a couple of riders making their way back over to the pit lane after falling out of this one. But up at the front, it is still Howarth that's now extending that lead up to 1.9 of seconds, whereas Matt Birkin's starting to close in on Bernie Hook.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. You can just see that Matt Birkin is really putting an effort in now to try and catch up and get right onto the back wheel of Bernie Hook. Perhaps some back markers in the way of Hook played in the favour of Birkin, because we did see Howarth managed to extend his lead even further after catching the back markers. But you can see Birkin putting an absolute effort in. He's right on his back wheel now. A little bit of a bobble through there, but nothing too big and nothing that he can't handle as they come into the complex just before the back straight once more.
Yeah, and it's exactly what we were talking about earlier, is that Matt Birkin seems to come alive in the second half of the race and just gets more comfortable, and he's really starting to put the pressure on Bernie Hook now, and he'll be looking at picking up a second consecutive second place finish, and he's closing in on the number 0 rider, and it's been a good day so far for Matt Birkin, the number 5, and he'll be looking at once again picking up another second, as it looks as though Will Howarth has checked out at the front. It's a 2.7 second lead.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant stuff from Will Howarth. Like we said, once he's out front, there is just no catching him. But it's all about this battle for second place now. We've seen how aggressive Matt Birkin can be towards the end of a race, so be very interesting to see what he can do here now.
Yep, still closing in on Bernie Hook. In fact, he's probably the closest he's been so far. Will he think about making a move into the infield section with the hairpins? We've seen a lot of the rookies do it, and here we go, down the inside, and he gets the move down. Beautiful. Will Bernie go around the outside and get the switch back? He does. So Matt Birkin sent it down the inside, and Bernie Hook was aware of it and just allowed him to go past and got the switch back. Yeah. Lovely move. Yeah,
he read that one like a book, didn't he? He saw Birkin come up the inside, saw him running a little wide and just switched it back, almost Dovizioso style there, and absolutely nailed it. But one lap to go then for these guys, so which of these will be able to take second place? We'll find out by the end of this lap.
Yeah, you can see the battle has allowed Will Howarth to really motor on, and 3.5 seconds he's got now leading this one, and behind Matt Birkin and Bernie Hook are going to continue going at each other, and we'll see if Matt lines him up once again for the same move into the hairpin. He's looking a little bit further away, and they've got some lap traffic now, so in fact that seems to have just worked in Matt's favour, and they're coming into the final time into the hairpin section, but not quite close enough to get the move done. But it is going to be Will Howarth that's going to navigate the final 2 corners of this one and lead a pretty dominant victory. He really used the traffic in his favour, comes across the line, and Will Howarth takes the 3rd win of the day, and a second for him. And side by side goes Birkin, who gets it on the line against Bernie Hook. 4 thousandths of a second splits Matt Birkin. He got better traction out of the final corner, and Matt Birkin just just gets ahead. 4,000 of a second, blink and you'll miss it. And yeah, Matt Birkin absolutely comes alive in these last laps.
Yeah, absolutely incredible there from Matt Birkin. He really likes the end of the race. It really comes to him at the end of the race. He starts off a little bit not sluggish, but not as strong as the way he finishes. But yeah, absolutely brilliant ride to take that from Hook by such a small amount.
Yeah, absolutely so. And Andy Whedon and Marco Bandolfo still battling over 5th and 6th position. I believe they'll be coming across the line, finishing up very, very shortly. But that gap was only less than a 10th of a second between those guys as well. So on circuit, a lot going on. But yeah, a 4,000th of a second gap between 2nd and 3rd place. And well-deserved second consecutive second place finish for Matt Birkin. He jumps Bernie Hook. So Bernie Hook having picked up all positions on the podium so far today.
Yeah, he's got the full selection. I'm sure he'll be happy with that. He'll have had a lot of good points there as we look at the top 10. So it was Will Howarth who took the win ahead of Birkin, Hook, and Josh Birkin there in 4th place. Marco Pandolfo it was that took 5th ahead of Tom Whedon, and in 7th spot was Aishel. Goosey, Skinner and Lucas round out your top 10. So yeah, a brilliant win there from Will Howarth, and a brilliant second place from Bernie Hook.
Yeah, absolutely so. And yeah, Bernie Hook, as you say, picking up all places on the podium so far today, so he'll be delighted with that. And equally, Matt Birkin, so that's a 3rd and 2 seconds for him. So yeah, a really strong opening round for Matt Birkin this season.